everyone, it's Kelly from Kelly's Bead Boutique. So I've been making and teaching how to make jewelry for a very long time. And one of the comments that I always hear is, you make it look so easy. Well, I think it is, and I want to show you just how easy it can be. So I'm going to take some simple parts and some simple techniques and put them together and teach you how to make your very own jewelry. If you want to see what I'm making today, come and join me. Okay, so let's get started. So to make my Amor earrings, I have a couple of the Tiara cast Amor pendants. I have some various sizes of jump rings and closed rings, and I'll explain those as I go along. I have some 22 gauge head pins, some teeny tiny bead caps, some assorted Chinese crystal, and a pair of ear wires. And for tools, we're going to be using our 4 basic tools. I've got my chain nose pliers, my bent chain nose pliers, round nose pliers, and a pair of cutters. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my head pins and just kind of straighten them out, and I'm just going to load everything up here just so that it's all ready to go when I need it. So I'm going to put a crystal on and one of our little tiny bead caps, and I just like the little bit of extra that it gives that look there. And I'm going to repeat that a few times here. So I have enough for a complete pair of earrings, but I'm just going to work on one at a time here. So I'm just going to do half the amount of everything, if you're wondering why I'm not doing the whole thing. So I've got 2 of this little light sort of sea foam, 1 of the little bit darker blue, and then I've got 1 of these teeny tiny, beautiful little sort of opalescent greeny blue ones. So this one and this dark blue one I'm now going to wrap up. So the way that I do that is I take my chain nose pliers and I place them right on top of that little head pin there. Now I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to bend away. And the reason that I use my thumb and create a nice sharp angle there is it gives it a much nicer finished product instead of just kind of pulling it back. That'll leave a bit more of a curve versus this nice sharp angle. I'm now going to take my round nose pliers, but I don't want to have a very big loop, so I'm going to work at the very, very front of my pliers. So I'm going to go maybe a 1/4 inch away up like that. So I'm going to bring that up and over and down, rotate my pliers, pull that to the back, and then I just kind of line it up to make sure that it's sort of sitting on a nice angle there. And now I'm going to wrap this up. And one of the keys to making your wraps really good is making sure that you've got your chain nose pliers firmly across that entire loop so it ends up, it gives it a bit more stability. So now I'm going to wrap this around 3 times, and then I'm going to work my way back up. I want this to be sort of a bulky, well, like I always say, mine aren't really super messy because I don't know how to do that messy wrap look. I think I'm just way too much of a perfectionist. So now I'm going to take my cutters and I'm going to use the flush side, and I'm going to come in on here and just give that a little trim. And always make sure that you cover that over with your thumb or with your hand because you don't want little shards of metal flying everywhere. And now there's a teeny tiny burr here, so I'm just going to push that down. So we have one little wrapped link. And then I'm going to take the other dark blue one and I'm going to do the same. So push away, come in with my round nose pliers, just go about 1/4 inch up, over, down, open up my pliers, rotate, bring that to the back, and just kind of make sure that it's all nice and lined up. Go firmly across and wrap that up. These ear wires, or sorry, these head pins are nice and soft, so you can pretty much wrap with your fingers. Sometimes when the wires are a bit heavier, it's harder to wrap with your fingers. But this actually, by wrapping with my fingers, it helps me get a little messier look, which I actually want, but I just never can do. So come in and give that a little squish. Okay, so now we're going to start assembling. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up one of these 4mm 18 gauge jump rings. So I wanted something a little bit heavier because this is the jump ring that's going to be supporting everything. So I always say that try to use the heaviest jump rings that you can. So I'm going to start off with this nice big heavy one, and I'm going to attach my closed jump ring through there, and then I'm going to come through the loop on, it doesn't really matter. I guess this one does have a pattern. It's got a heart, so you can have the heart going down or the heart going up, and I'm going to have the heart going down. So that's the way I'm going to put that on here. So we've got this now. I'll just move some things here. So this is what we've got on here now. So now I'm going to take one of my, so I've got some little baby tiny jump rings, and then I've got some that are a little bit bigger, and these are about a 21 gauge, and they're pretty tiny. So I'm going to put 2 of those on. Now the reason I'm putting 2 is again for some security and stability. So I'm going to put one on the closed jump ring and close that up nice and tight. Always make sure that you take the time to close up your jump rings, and that way they won't come apart. I get lots of questions as to, well, why do my jump rings come apart? And generally it's because you're using the wrong size or because you haven't taken the time to close them up. So I always get a good grip on them, wiggle it back and forth until it kind of almost just locks right in there. So this is what we've got happening now. We've got our 4mm, our closed, and then our 2 little tiny ones. Now I'm going to take the even tinier ones, and I'm going to put one of the beads on the bottom. Now again, I'm using 2 because I want to have some stability, because like let's say one does come off, well, you've at least got another one on there. So always open them up this way so that you don't break the neck. And now I'm going to go through the loop on there, and I'm going to go through the loop on the bottoms, but I have to go through both of those rings. So it's a little hard to do on camera. I've got to make sure this is opened up enough. So I'm going to go through both of them there. There we go. And then again, just make sure that this is done up tight. These are teeny tiny jump rings, so you don't have a lot to play with. So sometimes I have to go in and manhandle it a little bit. So now that's hanging off the bottom, and then I'm going to repeat with another one of these little ones. And now this is where it can get a bit tricky, because you've got to try and get it through all of that stuff. So, and actually put down my tool. So I'm going to come through, let's see, the best way to do this. I'm going to come through the 2 jump rings that I've got up here. Sorry if this is not translating well on camera. It's hard to sometimes get angles and be able to actually function and do this right. I'm going to open that up just a little bit more. You don't want to open them too much because it can actually break the neck, but I need just a little more room. Okay, let's try and stop that from swinging. So I'm going to go through these 2 jump rings, and then I have to go through the neck of the top of that little charm that I made there. So I'm now going to do this up. Can you tell it's 7 o'clock in the morning here? My voice sounds very husky. I'm going to be moving my filming studio to my home in the next month or 2. So I'll be able to record things at a more reasonable hour instead of having to get here before my store opens. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so now we're going to attach that one last. So I'm now going to make these ones into little charms, but I'm going to add them before I wrap them up. So again, we're going to take our chain nose pliers and come on top there and bend away. And I'm going to make my little loop again in the same place that I made the other ones. Up, over, down, rotate. But before I wrap this up, I'm going to add it to the closed ring. So on either side of these little 2 jump rings, I'm going to add 1. And I'm going to give that a wrap up. And again, sometimes it can be a little hard when you've got all this stuff in there. But, you know, I always say that you're the boss of the wire. Just boss it around and make it do what you want it to do. So give that 3 wraps down and 3 wraps up. And then give that a little trim. And then come in and put that little burr down. You never want to have burrs left over because they will poke you or catch your hair or whatever. So now we have that on one side there. And the other reason that I'm using the double rings and then the messier wrap is I really wanted that little bit more of a like a heavy metal kind of look on this, and I think it kind of achieved that by doing that particular way there. Okay, so one last one here. Up, over, down, rotate, and then before I wrap that up, I'm going to place it through my closed jump ring. So I've got one on one side of this little centerpiece. So I'm going to go on the other side. So you always want to make sure that you pop that on before you wrap it up. Then we're going to come across and give that a good wrap. Now I've had a few people ask me if I would do a tutorial on how I do a little more in-depth tutorial on my wire wrap loops. So if you would like that, leave a little comment below and let me know if you would like just sort of a dedicated video on how to do the perfect wrapped loop. So I'm going to give that a little trim and then push the burr down. We're almost done. Okay, so this is what we've got happening so far. It looks kind of pretty just like that, but I wanted something dangling down the middle. So now I'm going to take the last little tiny jump ring that I have, and I'm going to open that up. So I'm going to go right across, open that up, come through this little tiny charm, and then I'm going to hang that off of the front of the first jump ring that we hung there, and do that up. And again, these are so tiny, and with my bad eyesight, it's hard to see, so I sort of have to boss it around a little bit. But there you go. You just want to jiggle it until it clicks in there. And now we're going to open up our ear wire, bend that across, pop that on, and make sure you do that up nice and tight too. So I'm just going to finish the second one, and I'll be right back. So there you go. There's my Amor earrings. I'm loving the sort of industrial look with all the extra metal on these ones, and I think you guys are going to like them too. They'll be available on my website in a kit form, and I'll have the link in the description box below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I love to hear from everybody, and please make sure to subscribe to my channel. I want to thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.